Manuel Quinones is a reporter with Capital News Connection. He's tracked down Congressman Jim Moran for a story on health care reform. He's also asking the Virginia Democrat a question that's come to us via Ask Your Lawmaker. Ask Your Lawmaker breaks new ground for American democracy. I'm Melinda Wittstock, founder and bureau chief of Capital News Connection. How many of you can get your lawmaker on the phone? Right. That's why we created Ask Your Lawmaker. It's fun, it's easy. All you have to do is go to askyourlawmaker.org. Ask your question. Ask your friends to vote for your question, and Manuel or one of our reporters will track down the lawmaker, pose your question to the lawmaker, and upload the answer for you to listen to, read, comment, or share with your friends.
First thing any user does when they come to Ask Your Lawmaker is they come to the homepage. And on the homepage, the first thing you'll notice that there's a bunch of questions that have been asked by users from across the country: New York, Boston, Scottsdale, Arizona, Portland, Oregon, Colonial Heights, Virginia, all across the country. And you'll see that they've asked questions sometimes to specific lawmakers and other times to all of Congress. We've got questions to Ron Paul, Senator Carl Levin, Senator John McCain, Representative Boehner. Users are encouraged to hit the vote. If you see a question that you particularly like, for example, say you're interested in the Cash for Clunkers program. Michael Williamson from Scottsdale asked this question. I've owned my truck for several years. It is a prime candidate for the CARS program. It meets requirements for insurance and gas mileage, but the registration is expired, so it won't pass emissions tests. Is there anything that I can do? If that was a question that I wanted to vote on, I could, and then that question will go from having 3 votes to 4 votes. And the idea is that the more popular the question becomes, we'll be able to tell that through larger numbers of votes. We've got questions here on the Employment Non-Discrimination Act, questions on the Federal Do Not Call Registry Act. Those are some of the more populist questions that get lots and lots of votes. So once questions get popular enough, we'll then send our reporters into the field, and they'll get the questions answered from the lawmakers.
They know that these are their voters, these are the people who put them into this large marble building, and if they don't keep the voters happy, they're going to be out of a job.
CNC reporter Matt Laszlo is on his way to the Capitol building to ask a question from a voter in Phoenix.
They're sometimes a little bit thrown off because the voters definitely have specific things on their minds that lawmakers sometimes aren't ready for. And so 3 or 4 times the lawmakers have had to tell me, I don't have an answer, but I'll look into that. And then we call up their office a week later and say, hey, have they looked into it? And so we keep the pressure up.
Assignment editor Eric Neeler runs the busy CNC news desk. He decides how and where to deploy our reporters as news breaks and as questions come in from citizens.
Well, one of the things that having a citizen site like this is we get ideas from them that we can use in our news coverage. Sometimes it's a question about something happening in their community. Sometimes it's a different take on an issue that we're already covering. So we really value the input that citizens give on Ask Your Lawmaker.
Minutes later, Sarah Shimako secures an interview with Democratic Senator Kay Hagan of North Carolina.
And once again, the Democrats and Republicans on the Finance Committee are wrestling with this, and you hear different options all the time. So I'm going to hold on that until we see what it is the Finance Committee actually comes up with.
Policy lunches are great because it's a set time. It's a little bit after noon where the Democrats will go into one room and the Republicans go into another. So depending on who you need, you'll stand outside the doorway. They meet for about an hour or so. They eat and they talk about what's going on that week, policy-wise, where they stand on certain bills that are working their way through Congress. And usually it's a great time for journalists to grab them before they go in or when they're coming out.
Ask Your Lawmaker gives citizens a powerful voice and a chance to be heard just as loudly as the lobbyists and the special interests. You can also grab our widget for your site, blog, or Facebook page. It takes about 30 seconds to download, and you can customize it by issue, by lawmaker, by state, or to show only your own questions and answers. You can even co-brand it. You can also follow our reporters on Twitter and read their blogs.
So that your users know that this is a widget that's specific for you. Or if you've got a website with lots of different content categories, you can say, this is my environmental widget, this is my transportation widget, or my politics widget, so that you can kind of custom craft the widget to meet the needs of your site and to meet the needs of your users. So once you've kind of gone through that customization process, you come to a screen, or you hit a button to generate, and it just spits out the HTML code. You select it, you just copy it, and you can log into your Blogger site and post it right there.
Meanwhile, reporter Manuel Quinones is looking for Senator Orrin Hatch.
Oh, she's not?
He's
okay.
got a voter question for the Utah Republican about abortion.
Sure. Well, the question came in online. We got the votes. We saw which were the most popular questions, and we saw that this was the one that was, at least one of them, that was getting resonance. A lot of people were interested in this question. And the question is basically about the sanctity of human life.
He finds the senator in the Russell Building, where he's wrapping up a TV interview. Manuel has just a few moments to get his question in.
Well, I think that it's a spiritual concept that every human being has a right to live, and certainly the unborn have a right to live as well.
And we make a script out of it. We transcribe the answer, we take out the audio, we edit the audio, and then we upload it to the internet, to the website, to Ask Your Lawmaker, so the person who asked the question can get their answer, listen to their answer, and also anybody else who goes on the website.
It's interesting to see how the lawmakers themselves react to that moment when we bring them an Ask Your Lawmaker question, because once we explain what it is, they're really very interested and engaged in giving an answer and giving a thorough, thoughtful answer, because they know it's a direct response to a direct question. And that's a very different experience, I think, for them than often the sort of expected or oft-repeated media questions that they get all the time.
We're grateful to the Corporation for Public Broadcasting and all the funders who've made this important effort possible right from the start. Think about those rancorous town hall meetings that generated more heat than light. All those folks who tried to get their questions answered on health reform, well, now they can go to Ask Your Lawmaker and get their questions answered. It's vital for our democracy.